Today I said, let me come and have a conversation with young people in South Africa. Yes, it's Youth Day. I don't want to say a speech. I'm not giving a lecture. I want to just come and have a conversation. So wherever you're viewing from, get comfortable. Let's have the conversation about what it means to be a young person in South Africa, what the opportunities are, and what we as young people should be focused on. Now, it's Youth Day. People always commemorate Hector Peterson and speeches, but there never really is a conversation about where we are and what's really happening. And I want to have a real conversation. So share this video with as many young people as you possibly can. We live in a country where we've got the highest youth unemployment in the world. The highest number of young people in the world is South Africa. Yet our country is one of the richest countries in the world. And many of you know there was a research study that looked at the top 3 richest countries in the world. And South Africa was part of the top 3. So we are a wealthy country. Where are things going wrong? What are we doing wrong? What's happening? And I think at the fundamental part of it, as young people, we need to realize that we must fight. That's very important. The older generation, the Nelson Mandelas, the Oliver Tambos, they came and they fought for what they believed was right. They formed an armed struggle. They formed political parties that went and dethroned systems that people said were not possible. They fought. They had a consolidated war that they were all engaged in. And as young people today, we are in the benefits of what they fought for. But however, we are not fighting. We automatically are born into democracy and there's all these rights and there's all these things and we're comfortable, we're not fighting. And that's why young people in this country struggle so much. Unemployment, the poverty rate, the amount of the alcohol abuse, HIV scourge, so many issues that young people in South Africa have to go through. And one of the things that we must stop as South Africans, we must stop this attitude and the mindset of the fact or thinking that we don't have to fight for things. If you go any other area, any other place all around the continent, and you look at the youth in their country, they fight. Look at the Nigerian youth. Look at how active they are in fighting for them to survive and create a future for themselves. We all know, everybody knows about Niger boys that, scam online, etc. And I'm not saying Nigerians are scammers, but I'm saying the reason you know that is because every young Nigerian person has somewhat tried and understood that they must fight for them to become something in life. And South Africans, we get grants in South Africa, healthcare in South Africa, things that don't exist in Nigeria. In Nigeria, as a young person, you don't get 350. In Nigeria, as a young person, if you fall sick, there is no free healthcare that you're going to get from government. In Nigeria, as a young people, you wake up every morning and you go and fight. And it's the one component that South African youth have stopped. We sort of stopped the fight. We're not fighting hard enough. We're not fighting for what we need to see in our own generation. And yes, many people might try and troll and say, oh, but South African youth don't have enough opportunities and this and that and that. That conversation about opportunities is true. But by simply saying it, we're not going to get opportunities. What does fighting look like? What does fighting mean? And I want to get into that because the fight, if you're fighting for something, it means that it is dangerous. It does require a consolidated approach, and it does mean that we're all engaged. The first thing that we should be fighting about is that in every sphere of government, youth must be the majority. That's the first fight. If the country has young people as the majority, then we need to see young people represented in that. If you look at the numbers now of parliament, you look at the numbers of young people are just a feature. Just a small 5 to 10% feature. And young people keep quiet. You look at companies that employ or that make money from young people. You look at what happens within those companies. Young people themselves are subjected to all these things and all of them are quiet. We must begin to realize that as young people, there will be no emancipation that we want to see in Africa if we don't fight as young people. I looked at Niger recently and I saw, what happened when they basically took over government. And I looked at those soldiers and I saw the fight that they had gone through even when they were young. To the point that when they got rid of the Europeans or France, you even could see just from looking at him that this is a person who knows how to fight. And it's important. It's important. I often ask to say, South Africans, if ever we had to get rid of another government in this country, would we be able to have the capacity to fight? And these are important conversations. So what I'm saying to you as a young person is that you must become aggressive in the pursuit of what you want. Fight for what you want. Give it your best. Give it your all. Go all out. The reason why you are young, and this is important, you're young. You still have a future in front of you. You're able to push hectic hours. You're able to get involved in different things. You're able to learn. Your brain is still agile and fresh to learn. Use your youth to fight for the future that you want to see. Yes, it won't be easy. Yes, it will be tricky, but you must fight. That's the first thing. As young people, we must fight. The second thing, it's important for us to realize that South Africa is a wealthy country. So many times when young people engage in South Africa, when they look for opportunities in South Africa, when they think in South Africa, they think small because all they see around them is this man-made poverty. And as a result, we don't have young people that are creating vehicles. We don't have young people creating manufacturing hubs for aeroplanes. We don't have young people. Every single young person is sort of thinking, okay, maybe let me just create a TikTok account and maybe let me just start there, or maybe let me just, and nobody's thinking about how do I become or create the factors of production? How do I build a bank? How do I ensure that I build cities? How do I ensure, when you think as a young person, when you're building your business plan, when you're building your career, begin to think like a person who is part of a country that is the top 3 richest in the world. Don't allow your building or the way that you think to come back to be consolidated to poverty, because that's what the colonizers wanted Africans to think. And we can't allow that mentality to prevail. You must fight that mentality with everything in you to say, yes, I might be seeing poverty around me, but I am sure of the fact that South Africa is a wealthy country. And when I think, I must think at that level. That becomes very important. The last thing, young people, we must unite. We must work together. We must collaborate together. We must help one another. We must assist one another. It doesn't assist or help you to sit down and bash another young person who's doing something. When I started Arise South Africa political party, the amount of the attacks that I received from young people that were my age were the majority of the attacks that I received. The elderly said, this is wonderful, go for it. But it was the young people that they were the ones attacking. And this, what it does is it stops young people from amongst us to actually ensure that they benefit the future. Remember, when one young person, and I've always said this, to say, when a young person becomes a billionaire, a young person, I can tell you there are many millionaires around him that are young. It doesn't help us fighting one another. We must begin to be united. And how do we do that? We do that by building structures that make sense. It might be a business forum for young people, get involved. It might be a political party where it's young people leading, like a Right South Africa, get involved. It might be a society or a stokvel of young people just saving 50 Rand, get involved. Young people, we must begin to unite as a unit, because there is power in unity. That's how people are able to become successful. And on this Youth Day, I want to talk about chapter 2 of my book, Mr. Bitcoin. And if you haven't gotten a copy, copies are still available at Exclusive Books. But in chapter 2 of the book, I speak about a curious mind, a successful life. And that's page 19. And basically what I say in this book is that as a young person, be curious to learn. Keep your mind curious. When you see anything happening, don't just see it and say, oh, wow, I'm seeing something happening. That's interesting. No, see it and be curious. Recently, I started to see a lot of AI startups come up all around the world. And I asked somebody and I said, are there AI startups in South Africa happening? I've been looking. I'm not seeing many of them. How can you be seeing AI startups happening, happening, Apple Intelligence happening, all these AI happenings, And you're not curious to say, how do I get involved? You're just seeing it and you're saying, oh, other countries are smart, they're able to do it, and you're quiet. Be curious. Try and find out, how do they do it? What are they doing? How is it working? In page 21 of the book, I say, that's the beauty of being a business-minded. I've always been able to channel my energy into identifying how can I learn from an experience, even a negative one. Whenever I see anything happening all around the world, I always ask myself, how can I learn and how can I become a part of it? And yes, you might not have all the resources or all the knowledge that you need at that time to actually do it. But let me tell you something about desire. And I learned this from reading a book, Think and Grow Rich. Once the desire is there, what that desire does is it begins to pull all the necessary resources, everything you need to build whatever you want to build. It gravitates towards you. Why? Because the desire is there. And some people call it faith. That's faith. When you begin to have the faith for something, it draws everything that you need to begin to come to you. Another important lesson from page 22, I said, I learned the power of the mind and the impact of positive thinking. I knew I had to stay positive so that the positivity could manifest itself in my success. There is great power in what we say to ourselves about ourselves. It's important as a young person to remain positive. One thing I came to learn in life, and I think this was something that unlocked my mind completely, is that even successful people have negative thoughts. When Elon Musk was explaining about the challenges that he's experienced even as a billionaire, I said to somebody, if billionaires have negative thoughts to deal with, there is no excuse why you are not able to deal with your negative thought. They've got 24 hours, you've got 24 hours. They're running companies, they're doing all these big things. They have negative thoughts. Why don't you manage your mind and deal with the negative thoughts as well? So there's no excuse. So it's important that we all begin to do that. And the last thing I want to cover is from page 24. I said, branching out and exploring other career paths helps develop a person's understanding of the economy, the world, and the workspace. This is a mentality that is vital if you want to be successful. And I'm just sharing some nuggets from the book. Get a hold of the book. It will really help you understand a lot of stuff. But what I speak about there is to say that when you begin to branch out into different careers and understand how different things works, it helps you grow and betters your chances of success. I always say to people to say, I'm only 30 years old. But the amount of industries that I've been in, that I've learned in, some that worked, some that did not work, I can count them for you. I've been in logistics, trucking, and also Uber vehicles. Because when Uber came out, I bought an Uber vehicle and I did that business. I've been in mining. I've been in restauranteering. I've owned a fish and chips before. And, I closed it because the profits were not making sense for me. I've been in blockchain technology. I've been in software engineering. I've been in a political party. I've been in all these different businesses and all these different career paths. Why? Because I understand one thing. I'm young, my mind is agile, and I'm still able to do so. In all these things, I now have a better chance to understand which industry or which area should I be focusing on. And even if I don't focus in one, I'm able to know when I'm doing the next thing, I'm able to understand, okay, what were the lessons that I learned in the other industries that I can bring on to the specific industry that I'm in? So be curious. Don't just allow things to pass you by. Go out there and learn. I always say to people to say, one of the things that is most underrated is just learning. As simple as that. Learning is so underrated. The podcasts you listen to. What are the podcasts? What are you subscribed to? Are you subscribed to this channel to be able to learn? Are you subscribed to Fix Africa? What are you listening into where you're actually learning? Where can you go to begin to learn something? Knowledge is so available on the internet, and you are able to learn anything that you want to learn today. Be curious. Ask questions. Don't just allow things to happen to you. I often say to somebody that every single area of life that I have been exposed to, I've gotten in, I've given it my best, and I've learned so much. That's the most important thing. You learn so much in each and every area that you go into. So I wanted to come through this youth day and do it a bit differently. Not come through and read a speech, not come through and, talk about the past. No, come through and have a candid conversation to say, as a young person, in South Africa, going through so many things that young people in South Africa go through, what is it that you should be doing right now where you are? What are some of the things that I can share with you that can help benefit you and help you grow? Thank you so much for tuning in and subscribing to the channel. And please do me one favor. Share this video with 10 young people and enjoy your Youth Day. Happy Youth Day, South Africa. Let's allow a generation of young people to rise in this nation and prove to the world that South Africa truly is top 3 richest country in the world.